So hello and welcome to this tutorial today. And as always, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Mr. David Emsey from Biomechanics. So David and I will really discuss today a hugely expansive area around really warm-ups for golf. What is a warm-up, for example, but more on a very precise, very intrinsic discussion. What can we do as coaches, as players, for example, to ensure that our body's in the best place to really allow it to move so well through the golf swing. So when we're looking at kind of warm-ups, in many ways, there could almost be a warm-up pre-warm-up. So they're very conventional, very historical warm-ups of movement-based and kind of some stretching-based stuff, which really goes against kind of contemporary research as to why we shouldn't stretch before golf, from a very powerful elastic discussion. This in many ways is actually the warm-up pre-warm-up. So what can we do to ensure our frame's in a wonderful place, the segments are happy to interact, the joints are happy to move, and almost from the idea of a directional preference, are there things we can do in advance of actually warming up to almost soothe that kind of system, almost kind of remove irritation from our system to best then allow us to actually move and warm up very well. So again, a very expansive subject, a very divisive subject, but in a very kind of intuitive way. What can we do before we warm up to really ensure that we're in the best position to move and then swing very well? So Dave, as always, thank you so much for sharing your observations around things that we can do at home, at the range, literally when you get out the car, for example, in advance of golf, to really ensure that we're in the best position to move and perform very well.
Thanks, Mark. Pleasure to be here. So the pre-warm-up warm-up, what a great phrase. Love that. From my perspective, what's the actual warm-up supposed to do? The actual warm-up supposed to take you through the movements that your body's going to need to do in order to complete your round of golf. So as long as you are taking a body through those motions, that's fantastic. But actually the pre-warm-up warm-up is how do you get your awareness of those areas and start to make them think about moving in the right direction. So if we take it from the bottom upwards, I'd be roll the feet inwards and outwards, pronation, supination. Wake up those nerve endings. Get your brain starting to think about those movements that are going to have to occur, not specifically as part of your warm-up drill, but just waking up the pathways between the brain and those areas. Pronation, supination, flat foot, outside borders, flat foot, outside borders. Next, mini squats. Wake up the knees, okay? We're talking mini. This isn't an exercise. This is just saying to the body, this is what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to move up and down and get those knees working as best as possible, okay? Hips. Hands on front of hips. Now, front of hips are actually, if you're going to put your hands into your pockets and keep your thumbs out of the pockets, where your fingers are, bum, 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 that's where front of hips are, okay? So when you want to get the hips woken up, hands go on front of hips. And again, we're going to do a mini squat, but we're going to put a pressure onto the front of the hips. We're going to squeeze the hips backwards using the fingers. So the brain gets alive to the idea of where the hips are and what movements you want them to do, because you're putting an external pressure on them as well. So a little set of 5 squat, pressure into the hips at the same time. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, fantastic. 5 in a row, and you do 5 in a row of rollouts, 5 in a row of little squats, 5 in a row of hips. Now that's lower limb waking up. Then we want to start getting into the torso. The torso waking up, what we want to think about doing is keep the pelvis still. Left hand front of hip, right hand up onto the torso on the right hand side. Wake up the torso, turn it to the right repeatedly, turn it to the right repeatedly, 5 of these. Right hand onto front of right hip, left hand onto the torso, upper left side. Let's start the torso turning left as well. The hip needs to stay still, the pelvis stays still. We're waking up the top area, waking up the spine, the thorax, the rotation we want to start to get hold of, okay? Now, then going to go up into the neck. We're going to do hands onto thorax so that we're keeping thorax still, but again, we're waking up that connection between neck and thorax. Head turns to the right, head turns to the left. Make sure you've done a big breath beforehand, okay? Deep breath in, hold that position, breathing out. That's when we're going to start turning left, right, left, right, left, right, 5 times. Now, my final move, your favorite, okay? Final move starts to ask the arms to come into it as well. We've not talked about arms yet. There will be a sector where we talk about shoulders, arm, hand, wrist, etc. The big move that you want to do is start to get that thought process of dynamic movement through the whole body. It's the John Travolta movement. Pressure through the left side, reach through the right side, okay? Pressure through the right side, reach through the left side. Now, you can do that on the course, on the tee box, in the privacy of your own home. Yeah, maybe a better space to do it. By doing a John Travolta movement, you're encouraging neural networks of how you want the body to start think about cross patterns, which are going to get utilized through the swing and beyond. So just as a wake-up pattern, those simple things to go through will be a way of neurally waking up those areas, asking those areas to say, okay, I know I'm going to have to do something. Then you can go through the full warm-up of taking them through the ranges they're supposed to be going through, but you want to wake them up first. Consciously, you want to stimulate them. That's a little routine. Give it a try. See how it feels.